How much do your colors dictate your options? I was playing a game of Commander recently with a couple of strangers, and as it goes, someone ends up coming way out ahead in the mid-game. While discussing how to knock them down a peg, the fact that they're leveraging a powerful artifact to get this win gets brought up. We try devising some ways to draw it into our answers, to which the black player responds, "I don't have any," and my mind just stops. None. You have 0. I'm playing mono black. What happens when someone plays a winter orb against you? I hope that someone else handles it. And I don't know whether this person was correct. Magic's foundation is built upon the color pie. Each color has the ability to do certain things and can't do others. All colors can interact with the board and remove permanents from play, but what they can get rid of and how they go about it are wildly different from each other. So today, I want to explore the different avenues and philosophies for removal of the 5 different colors of magic. Hopefully, this will help to round out people's interaction suites and lead to fewer hopeless games of Magic. We're going in order from best to worst, which means of course we're starting with white. Sure, mono white has its quirks, but when talking about removal, it's certainly the kingpin. In my video about what makes good removal, I talk about how it should strive to be flexible and robust. White can destroy anything, and often has removal that either hits multiple card types or exiles cards instead of destroying them. In my estimation, Generous Gift and Stroke of Midnight are White's 2 best removal spells. They can hit anything, except for lands in Stroke's case, and can do so both at instant speed and without additional setup. Sure, the affected player gets a token, but the difference between a 3/3 and a Hullbreaker Horror is the difference between winning and losing a game. I know that some people are allergic to 3 mana removal. But if the hallmark of good removal is that it's never offline, and if these can always find a solid target, then it's probably worth ponying up the extra mana. If you want something a little cheaper, then there's a healthy middle ground. Get Lost and Bovine Intervention. These both cost 2 mana and can hit either a creature or one other card type. Enchantments for Get Lost, and artifacts for Bovine. Still flexible, still instant, but accordingly, they're narrowed down a little in return for a reduction on mana. Trimming the fat even further, we get Swords to Plowshares and Path to Exile. Path has fallen off in popularity recently, but both are still hyper-efficient ways of taking down creatures, even indestructible ones. Few exchanges in this game feel as satisfying as hitting an Ulamog with Swords to Plowshares and watching your opponent openly weep at the 10 mana difference. Outside of the obvious options, White also gets an array of strange and effective non-traditional removal spells. Darksteel Mutation ensures the strongest creature on the board is nothing more than a glorified blocker. Grasp of Fate and Static Prison don't permanently remove their targets, but can hit almost anything and exile rather than destroy. And Heliod's Intervention is, quite frankly, way undercosted. You can often board wipe every single artifact and enchantment you don't control in one cast, especially the problematic ones. And of course, this isn't mentioning the removal you get to play in your lands. Witch Enchanter, Kabira Takedown, Razorgrass Ambush, and Iganjo all let you bump up your ability to control the board without bumping down your strategy important cards. This is to say, White is the gold standard for removal. It has everything you could ask for. Flexible, robust, high-impact options that lack the weaknesses and blind spots inherent to other colors. We begin to see these blind spots show up in colors like green. Green has some very good removal, but still gets into problems with certain card types. Notoriously, green can handle artifacts and enchantments easily. Cards like Nature's Claim, Force of Vigor, Return to Nature, Origin of Metal Bending, Pest Infestation, Collective Resistance, and so many others give green dominance over back row. A lot of these also have alternate modes, which keep them useful even if nobody is running wild with a Rhystic Study. You will notice, however, that something I did not mention is how great green is at handling creatures. This is because green is bad at handling creatures. There are very few effects in this color that let us unconditionally kill problems on sticks, and even fewer at a reasonable mana cost. Here are some of your better options. Beast Within, Kenrith's Transformation, and Lignify are outliers. They do take care of creatures, but the latter two are sorcery speed and can be undone by enchantment removal. The other options are split between anti-flying spells and fights. Green actually has a surprising number of options to kill flyers. Shoot Down, Glorious Decay, and Unforgiving Aim are each flexible options that can take down things in the sky, but they also won't spend the game offline if none show up. If a friend of yours is a fan of dragons, dragons, you might want to consider picking some of these up. Then there's fight spells. I have my issues with this card type. They are not the all-encompassing creature removal that some people think they are, and if you want my arguments as to why, I have a video that covers the topic extensively. The TLDR version is, dedicated fight spells are narrow, dependent on setup, and can be negated by a lot of different effects. Because of this, I would encourage you to look at the modal fight spells first, even if they aren't the cheapest mana-wise. Bushwhack, Inscription of Abundance, and Archdruid's Charm are what I'm talking about. They rarely leave you hanging. If you want more, then Colony Ambush and Bridgeworks Battle are both lands on the back, so you can increase your removal without decreasing consistency. Overall, green is great at removing artifacts and enchantments, has a slight weakness against creatures, but can shore it up with some outliers and clunky options. I think that blue is in a similar place to green. Good fundamentals, but has weaknesses it can iron out with some effort. The outliers in blue are Pongify, Rapid Hybridization, Reality Shift, and Resculpt. The first two are mana efficient, Reality Shift is exile, and Resculpt is both robust and flexible enough to hit the One Ring. These do a good job of giving your removal package a head start, but are by no means the norm. Blue struggles to take care of permanents already in play. Usually, it leans on three types of removal: counterspells, bounce spells, and frogifies. Here's counterspell. It targets another spell on the stack, and then that spell will go to the graveyard without resolving. Blue practically has a monopoly on these things, and there's a lot of redundancy at 2 and 3 mana to fill out your slots. An offer you can't refuse, Force of Negation, Delay, Mana Drain, Flare of Denial, Fierce Guardianship, and more all stop people's cards in their tracks before they can get value. They can also stop instants and sorceries, whereas normal removal can't. The downside is, they are time sensitive. If a threat is put onto the stack when you don't have any mana held open, it's pretty likely you'll just miss the chance to stop it. You can't go back later when you have the mana and retroactively counterspell that Smothering Tithe. That's where bounce spells come in. These send cards back into people's hands and are usually pretty mana efficient. Cyclonic Rift, Into the Floodmaw, Chain of Vapor, and Snap can set people's game plans back and, more importantly, open them up to a counterspell. If you missed your opportunity the first time around, then bouncing their permanent back to their hand will give you a second chance at chucking it into the graveyard. This isn't foolproof though. Sometimes you'll draw only bounce spells, other times only counter spells, and so your ability to combo them together is out of your hands. Counter spells are also almost always more effective on non-creatures than creatures, but blue has another solution to this: frogifies. These are auras that usually alter creatures' stat lines and turn off their abilities. Over time, these have been seeing a big push in power and frequency. Witness Protection, Unable to Scream, and Honest Work all do the job for 1 mana, while Eaten by Piranhas, Fresh Start, and 4 others will all give you Flash to compensate for the extra cost. My favorite though is Amphibian Downpour. Wait until someone has an explosive turn, then flash this out to neutralize all of the board's biggest problems in one go. Because of these options, I'd argue that blue's identity is to easily remove spells on the stack, and that it can implement more narrow, called shots to deal with the things that have already resolved. Red is where we start to have problems. Like the other colors, red has their outliers. Chaos Warp and Wild Magic Surge both get rid of anything at instant speed. Be careful with the latter though, as the Surge is guaranteed to give them something in return, whereas Chaos Warp just has a chance. I've flipped my friend into a Zakama off a Wild Magic Surge before. I did not win that game. Outside of the premium stuff, this color kills one thing very, very efficiently, and that's artifacts. Smelt, Release the Gremlins, Ansrag's Rampage, Vandal Blast, and Shattering Spree all ruinate artifacts at great rates. Multiple of these end up being closer to one-sided board wipes for artifacts rather than one-for-one removal, or can do the job of either. Red's identity also involves creature removal, but it does this by way of damage. Lightning Bolt, Unholy Heat, Galvanic Blast, and about 1,000 other cards can do this, but only to a certain extent. The efficient and nimble damage effects in this game can struggle to take down creatures with high toughnesses. This means that creatures you can kill easily in red are often creatures not worth killing. What is very good though is red's ability to roll these two card types into one. Abrade, Explosive Derailment, and Suplex will give you the choice between taking out either of Red's natural enemies. Suplex Exiling will get you through One Rings and Mithril Coats, but you'll lose out on Abrade's instant speed in the trade-off. These are great artifact removal, and can pivot to take down a Willbreaker or something if need be. Between these cards, Red has the ability to hit artifacts very hard, deal with some creatures, but struggles with enchantments. It has a bit of flexibility, but feels lacking compared to the previous colors. Finally, we have Black. Black has been touted for ages as one of the good removal colors alongside white, but I think that this is rose-tinted heavily by Black's multicolored cards. Yes, Anguished Unmaking and Terra Sunder are premium removal, and are technically black, but if you're playing a mono-black strategy, then these are off the table. What you're left with is an inverse of green. You are very adept at killing creatures, but not so much with artifacts and enchantments. To take out creatures, we have Deadly Rollick, Snuff Out, Dismember, Cut Down, and 1,000,000,000,000,000,000 variations of Doomblade for 2 mana. Then there's a couple of lands that do a similar job. So we have creatures covered, I don't think anyone's arguing against that. The problem comes with artifacts and enchantments. Black's identity is murder, magic that harms living beings. Unfortunately, machines and enchantments don't, have heartbeats, so they're mostly dodging the bullet. They've recently started to add enchantment removal to Black's color identity, which I think retains their feel more than adding artifact removal would. It's anemic in this right now, but we have 2 efficient cards in Feed the Swarm and Withering Torment to hold us over as we wait for more. Artifacts are trickier. Unlike Green's fight spells dealing with creatures, we don't really get an equivalent middling option to cover us here. Gate to Phyrexia and Phyrexian Tribute, exist, but because of their drawbacks, lack of flexibility, and timing restrictions, they're by no means good cards. If a scary artifact ends up getting played, you're mostly going to be looking for ways to play around the issue rather than answering it directly. And this is how Black rolls. You can kill creatures without even thinking, enchantments are on the way, and everything else is a problem subject. The color pie is important. Choosing what strengths you value and what weaknesses you can ignore gives Magic's deck building its personality. However, I also think that some colors come up lacking in areas people believe they're strong in because the competition has many significant outliers and alternative routes to do the job. But at the end of the day, it's still on us as players to decide if we want to find ways to build our decks responsibly. Zuko's Exile might not be sleek, and it may cost a small fortune, but you always do have this option even if it sucks. The question is, do you play it? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'm also sure there are more options for colors to get removal outside their identity, and if you know some, please help everyone out by leaving them down there. If you got some value out of this video, I'd appreciate it if you liked it and maybe shared it with a friend. This channel has been growing entirely by word of mouth, and that's because you guys rock. If you're a fan of the format here, then subscribing will give you a heads up when I upload. I have a Discord where we get together for games of Magic, and a Blue Sky where I complain about my favorite game. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.